Microsoft just acquired ZeniMax, which means they just acquired Bethesda. Now, Bethesda publishes some of the largest gaming franchises out there, including Elder Scrolls, Doom, Fallout, Wolfenstein, one of my personal favorites, the Dishonored series, to name a few. And suddenly Microsoft's exclusives problem that plagued them this generation of consoles,
I'm going to make them an offer he can't refuse,
could potentially disappear. And considering their Game Pass program, that's kind of scary. At very least for Sony, but probably for a lot of people. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, we ask the question, does Sony need to compete with Game Pass? A little less than a year ago, Microsoft became valued at over $1 trillion. As of right now, their market cap is $1.5 trillion, and on hand, they have $137 billion. Here we are, with perhaps the biggest move in gaming history, Microsoft's $7.5 billion purchase of ZeniMax. Now, why this matters is that Microsoft has kind of had a serious problem with exclusives this past generation. The Xbox One just never competed with everything they had going on the PlayStation 4, which included just an absolute ton of amazing titles that range from the Uncharted series to Spider-Man, God of War, and the more recent Ghosts of Tsushima, not to mention Horizon Zero Dawn and Bloodborne. I mean, they didn't really have a lot that made you think, I need an Xbox for the exclusives, and in previous console generations, that mattered a lot. While Halo is basically always a killer app, and it has done more than probably any other series to keep people on the Xbox platform, and while Sea of Thieves is a good game, there's just not so much on the platform that it competes with what we saw on Sony. That all changes now, given that, potentially speaking, Doom is now an exclusive on Xbox. Now, that doesn't mean it's gonna be. We'll talk more about that later, but let's talk the more basic implications here. Microsoft is now the sole owner of a large number of incredibly big gaming franchises. Any one of them alone is competition for any one of those Sony franchises that I named. If an Elder Scrolls was exclusive to Xbox Series X, then everyone who wanted to play it on a console, which is not a small number of people in the least, would at least have to consider migrating to the Microsoft platform if not there already. Now, make all of those assertions again with all of the other games. But, and this is where I'm probably going to start deviating from what people might expect, I actually think that this move has extremely big implications for gaming as a whole. I think that the exclusives game is now done. I think in doing this, Microsoft effectively rendered exclusives somewhat obsolete, if not entirely. I don't think that a lot of these games are going to be exclusive for Microsoft's console. I kind of think Doom is probably going to continue to come out on every platform it can. But Microsoft has effectively made the Xbox Game Pass into the best thing in gaming. Microsoft releases all their internal studio titles free on day one for people who have the Game Pass. Now, the ultimate Xbox Game Pass costs $14.99, which is not a bank breaker, and you get over 100 Xbox games now, today, and guess what? All that stuff is most likely getting dumped right into it. And for sure, every single one of the new games in all of those franchises will be part of that Game Pass. They are all internal studio titles now, and that's huge. That's massive. The amount of value that the Game Pass has just gone up in is probably innumerable on account from now until the end of that program. All of these games are going to be on it. They have just bolstered the selling point of the Xbox significantly because the Xbox is now kind of Netflix for games. But now in your Game Pass, you are going to get some of the biggest heavy-hitting franchises of all of them. Frankly, with that deal, you do not need to even bother with exclusives. If I'm paying between $10 and $20 a month and I get all of these games, I'm not going to be buying games anymore. Like, that's it. I'm good. I don't need to buy another Doom ever again. They're all just mine now. Not legally speaking, but we don't need to get into licensing and stuff right now. In terms of numbers, Sony pretty much won this generation of the console war. However, they do have significantly less cash on hand as they are not as diverse a business as Microsoft is. Don't get me wrong, they have a ridiculous amount of money that they have access to. They could easily use $33 billion to do anything they want at any time. But compared to the $137 billion Microsoft has, they don't have the same kind of power to acquire that Microsoft clearly does. While it might seem like they could do something wild like get Activision Blizzard or 2K or something like that, I think you will start to see them scouting studios a lot more aggressively. That being said, I'm not really 100% sure if they're going to end up trying to fight a Game Pass war or an exclusive war. It's my opinion if they decide to fight some sort of exclusive war, they're gonna lose. Frankly, Microsoft, like I said, with their Game Pass program creates an advantage that's just unprecedented. They could release all of these games on the PlayStation 5, not even after launch day. They could come out the same day as they do on Game Pass, and the obvious choice is Game Pass. That said, they could go with a timed exclusive and make it so ultimately, yeah, they probably do make an absolute ton of money off of cross-platform titles, while benefiting from hype on the Xbox platform. Given that Sony has come out of its deal with Square Enix in the last few years as Square Enix returned to profitability, and Sony bought Insomniac Games, I mean, we can see a glimpse of the strategy that Sony had in place prior, which was essentially to have an incredible first-party lineup by a bunch of incredible first-party developers. And up until this Microsoft-Bethesda deal, frankly, that was a good strategy. But now these intellectual properties, to me, look a bit more like bargaining chips, rather than things that you can just say, I've got it, you don't, buy my platform. Let's say Sony does make some pretty strategic purchases and grab some big franchises out there. Is it really in Sony's financial interest to even go platform exclusive with those, or rather use them as a bargaining chip to ensure other titles don't become exclusive? Let's say perhaps Sony acquires someone like THQ Nordic, which has a number of internal studios that work on some pretty interesting games, including studios that they purchased, like the developers of Biomutant Experiment 101, or an internal first-person shooter development studio that they established back in February. Maybe Sony wants Dishonored to be cross-platform, but Microsoft doesn't. In theory, Biomutant is a game that a lot of people want. It could be a bargaining chip. We won't do this one exclusive if you don't do that one. And this would probably work even better with established franchises. In fact, I foresee a situation in which game development studios are established specifically with the intention of being acquired by either Sony or Microsoft to be part of the portfolio, and that's what it is now. These aren't just platforms, they are now also, if things go how I think they're going to go, subscription services. I think Sony's probably going to know that they can't beat Microsoft on exclusives when Doom, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, etc., is just possibly off the table. Sony is going to have to know that whatever they can do to ensure that exclusivity isn't a thing that sinks them, they're going to have to come up with an alternate offering to the Game Pass. And right now, the PS Plus collection thing isn't really that. I mean, it's close. It gives you a lot of the PS4's best games, but we don't know what the status with new games is. Also, some of the bigger games are missing from it, like Last of Us 2. Sony kind of already has a Game Pass type thing. PlayStation Now, which is subscription-based, gives you access to streaming and downloading a bunch of games. We know quite a few people that do use and enjoy it, but Sony isn't prioritizing it like Microsoft is with Game Pass. I mean, should they though? They could. They already have it in place. All they would need to do is amp it up with some newer games. Put it at the forefront, make it part of the reason to buy a PlayStation. You're talking much more competitive price and quality, but the question is that a priority for them? And even so, if Sony does start releasing games cross-platform and instead uses the Game Pass as a means to lure people in, are their exclusives as strong as Doom? Combined with Halo, I mean, that's a first-person shooter machine. Now, that's not to say that it can't be done. I mean, let's be completely frank here, a Bloodborne sequel would be incredibly killer. Ghost of Tsushima is, well, a frickin' masterpiece, as is God of War. Sony's got a lot in their arsenal, but I think the ultimate thing that we have to understand is that this is the equivalent of what has happened with movies. This is the restructuring of the industry. It's now happening because this is the single biggest shift I've seen in my life, I'm pretty sure. And yes, that includes Sega going under. This is an incredibly aggressive move, and it has ramifications that I think go well beyond even the console market. I mean, Steam is going to have to deal with the fact that Doom is now a Microsoft thing. Elder Scrolls is now a Microsoft thing. And I think an even bigger implication is that the days of the publishing house may be numbered. Little games might be self-serve published and big games might be acquired by the companies. This is a real consolidation of power. And it's my opinion that the way that Sony can compensate is with a competing offering to Game Pass, because I just don't know that having some games that are, yes, amazing, exclusive to your platform is enough when Microsoft is benefiting from possibly games that are on your platform, as well as coaxing people away via having those games available day one as part of a cheap subscription service. So yeah, in my opinion, yeah, they really need to figure out some way to compete with Game Pass, because there's no situation where Game Pass doesn't outmaneuver them with this new development. That's my thought anyway. What do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you like this video, click the button. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.